translated my favorite Estonian joke into English. This is how it goes. Why did the chicken cross the road? Because the chicken wanted to go to the other side. Hello everybody, my name is Manan. Welcome to my channel. I have been living in Estonia for the past 8 years, and on this channel I create videos that help people when they are moving to Estonia. Now, if you are thinking of moving to Estonia and you haven't moved, then I have created a 60+ item checklist, absolutely free. It's down in the description. You can check it out. It talks about everything that you need to know about this country when you're thinking of moving here. Everything from the culture, the history, what items to pack, and the visas and everything. So do check it out down in the description. In this video, I want to talk about the 7 special qualities that make Estonians really distinct and unique. Some of them are well known and some of them, well, you might not have noticed them, but I guarantee that you will be surprised by quite a few of them. So let's begin. Number 1, the immense focus on bodily health. This is something that I immediately saw when I came to Estonia. So firstly, I hardly see any obese people. I have been to many other European countries as well, even the United States. And one of the things that immediately catches my attention is that there are so many people who are like physically active and physically fit and thin. And not only to mention that, you always see people who are doing these physical activities no matter what the season of the year is. I mean, it could be like pitch freezing, like freezing 20 below zero, and there will always be a person who is out there jogging and running, and not to mention, you know, ice swimming in like the frozen sea, which is kind of crazy. That like blows my mind that it's so ingrained in a part of this Estonian culture. Estonian sports are like a huge part. Like, for example, in winter there is skiing, there is hiking. I mean, summer is practically everybody's just outdoors. You don't see anybody in the malls or in the gyms, and everybody's just out there hiking and traveling and doing, you know, all these physical activities that are, you know, part of nature and themselves as well. So that is something that is really inspiring, and it also kind of motivates you to be better yourself as well, to take care of your physical health and feel better. It's all around a great thing. Number 2. Now, this is specifically I have seen for Estonian women, but they really like to take care of themselves. Like, I don't mean just in their like health-wise, but also how they dress themselves, how they look, and how they care of their outlook, even if they are going outside, I don't know, for like a short walk or something. Now, this is something that I had already noticed when I first came to Estonia. It really came to my mind when I went to Bill Burr concert in Tallinn. Bill Burr, if you don't know, he's a very famous comedian from the US, and he was doing this world tour and he came to Estonia. And one of the first things that he remarked when he was doing his stand-up was that he mentioned that this is one of the most well-dressed audience that he has seen in his tour. And that is my personal impression as well, that people really like to take care of themselves, how they dress themselves, how they present themselves, how they groom themselves. And again, like point number 1, this is something that I have seen myself, and it's very encouraging for me as well, because I didn't know much about grooming and dressing and styling and all these things before I came to Estonia. But coming here in this environment and looking at all those, you know, fancy dressed people and fancy looking people with styles and everything, I also started to take care of myself and, you know, dress myself properly and find, you know, a style that defines you. Really great thing, actually. Number 3rd quality, which is really something that I have seen in Estonian men, is resourcefulness. The ability to make do with whatever you have. This is something that probably comes from the Soviet times when you didn't have many material stuff, but almost all of my Estonian friends I know have this like little hobby like tucked in their garage. I have a friend who has like 2 or 3 really old Soviet cars, and he's always tinkering with them and messing with them and improving them and just all around figuring out ways that how he can, you know, make them better. And I have seen this quality not just in my friends, but overall with everybody as well. Like, people like to do things with their hands, with themselves, like especially Estonian men. You have a work need to be done for renovation at your home, you will just pick your tools and then just start going. And this is something that I have seen probably that has been passed down from their parents who grew up in the Soviet times when you didn't have access to, you know, all these other resources that could come and do this work for you. Now, this is something that is very encouraging and a little bit surprising for me as well, that no matter what the thing is, especially Estonian men will prefer to do it themselves, whether it comes from renovation or, you know, doing all the work that needs to be done on your car and all these things as well. That is another great quality that I have seen in, especially particularly the Estonian men. Number 4 quality, which you might already know, but they tend to keep to themselves. Estonians are not very emotional, not very outgoing, and they generally like to keep to themselves. Now, this can result in both positive aspects and a little bit of negative aspect as well. Now, the positive aspect is particularly that nobody bothers you. Like, you could be doing anything, you could be sitting there minding your own business. As long as you're not actively trying to poke other people, nobody will bother you at all. And this is something that if you want peace and quiet, then I always say that Estonia is like a great place to be. But one negative aspect that can come from this, and I have seen this in practical action as well, is when, for example, if there is a public situation and somebody is in trouble where somebody needs to intervene and act, then this is not very common. This is not something that happens. One of the examples is, I've mentioned this before as well, I've slipped a couple of times on ice and hardly anybody comes and asks you how you're doing or if you need any help. The other aspect is, for example, if somebody, like for example a person in need of an emergency, maybe a homeless person, crashes somewhere or just lies down on the pavement or something happens to them on the bus, then I have seen that nobody will take the initiative to call the police or just look at that person and see how they're doing, because everybody is so immersed in themselves and nobody wants to bother anyone. So yeah, that's the thing. Number 5, Estonians are really straightforward. If they like something, they will just say it out loud. If they don't like something, they will just straight away say it as well. They don't mince their words, they don't use similes, examples, they don't beat around the bush. It's just straight. Now, that is all good if you are in a professional environment where you need some kind of a feedback. Then it's really great that nobody worries about that. But it kind of becomes a problem in like more of a personal setting. Like, for example, let's just say if you like somebody and you go up to them and you ask them, okay, how are you doing? Would you like to meet sometime in the future? Right off the bat comes the straight answer that no, I don't like you at all, and it's not going to work out. Now, obviously that is an exaggeration, but I hope this gives you an idea of what being straightforward means in the context of personal relationships. So being straightforward is very uniquely Estonian quality that I have seen in all the time I've been here. Number 6, and that is independence and self-sufficiency. Now, we all know that Estonia has been occupied for the majority of their history, but right now Estonians value their independence a lot. Like, they would not want to be subject to any other place or a country. Now, this is true for both Estonian individuals, and to some degree it's also even true for the Estonian majority state as well. Now, one example is that Estonia has one of the lowest debt to GDP ratio, which measures how much the country is borrowing as compared to what they're spending. And actually Estonia has one of the lowest ratios in the whole OECD countries, which means that Estonians generally don't like to borrow at all, and even if they borrow, they tend to just give it back as soon as possible. One important thing to mention is that Estonian debt to GDP ratio is around 16%. If you look at the Eurozone average ratio, then it is around 93%. And this goes to show how much of Estonians really value their independence. I don't want to borrow money and be subject to any terms and conditions at all. And finally, number 7, which is, yes, the Estonian sense of humor. Now, Estonian sense of humor is kind of very dry, very sarcastic, and it is very self-deprecating as well. It might not be suited for many other people. It needs a certain kind of, like warming up to the Estonian culture, and only then you can truly appreciate that. Like, you truly appreciate the Estonian sense of humor if you have lived here for at least a year and gone through the whole seasons, like Estonia has to go for, like summer, winter, autumn, spring, all these things. Only then you can truly appreciate the magnitude of where the Estonian humor comes from. Estonian humor is great. Now, I want to say 2 Estonian jokes that I sort of really like. So hear me out. An Estonian visits Russia. He goes from Tallinn to Narva, does like a 2.5-hour drive. He realizes that he needs to get petrol into his car, so he stops at a gas station, goes to the shop, buys a sandwich, eats the sandwich, and then, you know, as everybody, he wants to use the restroom. And he goes to the restroom and he tries to open it, but it's locked. And he knocks on the door, and from the inside comes a voice saying, "Occupied." Estonian stands there for a moment and says, again. Joke number 2. How many Estonians does it take to build a house in Finland? You'll never know because there are no tax records for that. Okay, so this was all. Now I hope you liked it. Please check down in the description below. I'm working on some new exciting projects, including one little mini book about making friends in Estonia. If you really want to check it out, then I recommend that you look at the link in the description. Now, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one next week. Bye bye.